Hey kids, Rich here, co-host of Castles, Capes, and Clones, for another episode of the show I am now calling Castles, Capes, and Clones Cuisine. This is a show where I show you how to make food and dishes that have been in a Disney movie or a Marvel movie, or even I will be doing some Star Wars food. It's not really like a one-to-one, like exactly dishes. These are kind of things inspired by, are kind of like it, because I want to also use things that you can easily get at the grocery store without having to hunt for things, or possibly stuff you would already have in your pantry and kitchen. So today, let's take a look at this clip from a very classic animated movie.
Pucci, he says he wants two spaghetti speciale, heavy on a meatball. Now here you are, the best spaghetti in a town.
All right, so it's pretty obvious what we're going to be making today. Spaghetti and meatballs. Now, like I said, it's not going to be exactly what that is, because one, it's an animated dish of spaghetti and meatballs, so who knows what's really in it. Like red. So I'm going to make a version of spaghetti meatballs that's pretty simple to make. It's got a lot of stuff you would probably have. So for the meatballs itself, I am using 2 pounds of ground meat, 1 pound of ground pork, and 1 pound of ground beef. Now, if you don't like ground pork, you just use all beef. Some people use ground beef, pork, and veal. Not readily available. Luckily, my grocery store actually sells 2 pounds of ground meat, which is a blend of ground beef and ground pork. That makes it very simple. To that, we'll be adding 2 eggs, because 1 egg per pound is usually kind of a way to go. And then about half a cup of grated Parmesan. And I will also throw in a little bit of this tomato sauce. For the spaghetti sauce, what we're going to do is 1 big can of San Marzano peeled tomatoes. Now, you don't have to use this. I prefer this because it just tastes better to me. I've tried San Marzano style canned tomatoes and it's not the same. So if you really, really want to have the best kind of ingredient to use for these things, for these kind of sauces, the Italian San Marzano canned tomatoes. Like, it has to be a product of Italy. And that's the only way to really to make sure. Like, this brand is pretty readily available everywhere. I got 1 can of regular tomato sauce. Again, I'll be using some of it in the meatball and then the rest in the sauce itself. And then I chop up a little bit of parsley, which actually goes into the meatball. Forgot about that because I'm awesome. A small white onion, minced garlic. Now, obviously, you could probably use, or definitely should use, fresh garlic. I just like this because I usually buy garlic in bulbs, as everyone does, but I don't end up using it all. And so, like, most of it goes bad after a while. This keeps in the fridge, and I can just get as much as I want or need to use with a spoon. So, also, I've got a blend of spices here. Now, you can use an Italian ready-made blend, but I'm just using some oregano and basil mixed in with some red pepper flakes. Then I use about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And I like to get them in the tube because you always need the whole can. And then also spaghetti. Let's get started on the meatballs. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is prep the parsley and the white onion. So I've just taken a bunch of the parsley leaves. I've taken out most of the bigger stems, and I'm just going to kind of roughly chop it. There you go. Parsley is done. So cutting the onions is very easy. Split it in half from the poles. And then you want to take out the little hat part. I don't know what you call that part. Not the root. So to cut an onion, I'm going to do a fine dice. That's what we want. Take the half like this, and you want to make cuts in like angled to the onion. You don't have to do the side thing you might see some people do, because onions are already segmented. You just need to help it. You know, if you want to practice your knife skills, onions is a good way to do it. There's a lot of different ways you can cut onions because they're cheap, and you can cut. There's little different ways you can cut each vegetable. The biggest safety thing I can say about knife work is you actually using a sharp knife. This knife can probably use a sharpening. Because the duller it is, the harder is the cut and the more prone to accidents might happen. I actually used to work in a restaurant, so I kind of learned how to do cutting there. Sometimes I do it a little bit faster. I'm not as good as, you know, professional chefs. But yeah, I'm okay. This is for the sauce, so I'm going to save that. Gonna work on the meatballs. Alright, to make the meatballs, I've got the chopped up parsley. I'm gonna add the meat to it. Big chunk. Oops. And to this, I'm actually going to also add the Italian blend. This is the Parmesan. What I forgot is actually the breadcrumbs. So we also need about half a cup of breadcrumbs. And then, like I said, I am going to add a little bit of tomato sauce. Some people actually like to put in ricotta cheese into the meatball. That's cool too. It's just not a cheese I have on hand a lot or have any use for beyond meatballs. So I just omit it. You can too. You don't have to. Or you can add it. It's up to you. Not a lot. There you go. And then also the eggs. And now you get messy. You want to work it, incorporate it. Don't want to mush it too much. You're not making like a meatloaf. You don't want these too dense. You just want it all combined. But don't be afraid to get in there. Be one with your food. Get messy. Once everything is well incorporated, we can get the form in. There's a couple ways you can cook meatballs. You can pan fry them for a little bit to kind of sear and brown the outside, but then finish it in the oven. You can stick it just in the oven, or you can stick it directly into the sauce itself and have it cooked there for like 40 minutes. I'm going to today just cook it straight in the oven. So I got a rack on a baking sheet over here. So I'm just going to form these into, like golf ball sized. Not like that. I don't have a banana for scale, but hey. You know, you can go as small or as big as you want. It's real up to you. Sometimes your cooking times might vary if it's really big. Stick it on my rack. For another one. Alright, so I started to mix it and I forgot a couple other ingredients. Salt and pepper. Because you need salt and pepper. Be fairly liberal. Two big pinches of salt and pepper. Once it's all kind of incorporated, you want to start forming your little balls. I don't golf, so I'm guessing it's like that. Stick it on my wire rack. And I'll keep going until I'm done. 35 to 40 minutes in the oven at 425. Should be good. Probably about 30 minutes, actually. Alright, I think we can fast forward this part. There you go. Meatballs. There's about 19 of them. So, you know, some of them are a little bit bigger and smaller than the other ones. It's fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I emptied the can of San Marzanos into a bowl. Now, you don't have to do this. It's really up to you. But I like a smoother sauce, so I'm going to actually take my immersion blender, which is this sucker, Castle Capes and Cloves. And then Alright. Cool. Like I said, it's a very optional thing. Really personal preference. It won't change the flavor, really. It just makes it a smoother actual sauce. So we want to take a good sized pot. This is a cast iron Dutch oven with enamel coating. If you just have like a big pot, it's fine, any kind of pot. What we're first going to do is Put this over kind of medium high. Coat the bottom with some oil. I'm using avocado oil. Oil's warmed up, so what we're going to do is we're going to soften your onions. Want to season your onions. You actually kind of always want to season every single step of the way. All right, once they're a little bit soft, I'm going to add probably roughly the same amount as 3 cloves of garlic, minced, because why not? You don't want to burn the garlic, so kind of heat it until it gets fragrant. And then mixy mix. At this point now you want to add the tomatoes. Oops. Tomatoes, give it a stir. I'm turning it down. So we don't want to flash cook this. You want to add more of that spice blend, Italian seasoning if you got it, oregano, a little bit of basil, crushed red pepper flake, and I'm also going to add a little bit of thyme. Mix it all in. At this point, I'm also going to add about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And the rest of my tomato sauce. So what you want to do is let this simmer while the meatballs cook. So I'm going to leave this on low, partially covered. My oven's been preheating to 425. I'm actually going to take it down to 375 and stick my meatballs in. Alright, so I'll see you here in 30. Well, I'll be here in 30. You'll be here in like a second. So like right now. Alright, the meatballs have been cooking for 30 minutes. I took them out. So what I'm going to do now is actually add them to the sauce so they can kind of finish in the sauce. Meatballs in the sauce. Alternately, what you can do is make a batch of meatballs and then freeze it, and then only heat up like in a pot of sauce how many you want. So yeah, get them nestled in there. Alright, so I'm going to cover this again. And then we're going to make the pasta. Now, I'm going to do something a little controversial. And that is, I am not going to pre-boil my water. I'm actually going to cook the pasta from cold. What does that mean? Simply put, pan, cold water. I'm going to salt it pretty liberally. And cook it from cold. Set this on high. And cover. Now, why do I do this? Literally, it takes a short amount of time from beginning to end to cook the pasta. This kind of concentrates the starch in the water and makes that pasta water more effective, I guess you can kind of say. Because you also use less water when you're doing it. So what you want to do is take a pan, cover it just as much as like the pasta, and then let it go from there. And once it boils, it usually doesn't take that long. What you want to do is get this to slightly more al dente. So like once that crunch is kind of gone, because what we're going to do is actually finish it in some of the sauce. All right, I have the pasta draining. So what I'm going to do is actually take some of this sauce, not the meatballs, but the sauce, and finish the pasta. Because this way you're actually, the sauce will absorb into the pasta, whereas, you know, the traditional classic, put the pasta on the plate, put the sauce over it, doesn't really add flavor to the pasta. This way it kind of does, so that's kind of cool. Let that go a little bit. Are pretty much good to go. So now the pasta is cooked. Stick it in the pan or plate. Nice, nice. I'm gonna go ahead and add more sauce with some meatballs. Good to go. We're gonna finish it with some more cheese. Here you go, spaghetti and meatballs. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and the video, and hit that bell notification so you're alerted when we have new videos. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the flip side.